Okay, UV mapping rookies, I'm going to show you guys a quick example of what we're going to be doing with the gum box. And once again, it's only because UV mapping is pretty convoluted as far as the steps you have to take. So let's go ahead and just create a regular old cube. That's it, nothing more complicated than that. And turn it into an editable mesh by clicking the little button over here. And I'm going to just turn on my lines. Now what we're going to do with this guy is we're going to head over. We go ahead and name it first of all. Let's call it crate. All right, so we can just have a name. We're going to go to our layout and we're going to change it to Body Paint 3D. Once we're in this interface, we're going to use a tool that's going to help us automatically create this UV. And it's right here. This is our paint setup wizard. Going to click on it one time. And typically, if you have several objects in your scene, you could choose the one you want to have a UV map generated for. And then once you do that, you can go ahead and say next. And here is where you tell Body Paint how you like the UV map to be set up. In this case, I want it to be optimal cubic mapping. And I'm going to leave everything else alone. All right, I have a single material mode here. I'll hit next. And here's the fun part. You could choose how many different channels you want to paint. Now quickly take a look down here in our colors panel. This is the channel for color. The big C stands for color. And as we create more stuff like diffusion or specular, you'll have more of these little icons here with the appropriate letter next to it. And you can click on there and paint that particular channel. Very, very handy. But for now, I want to keep it simple. We also have the ability to create the size for the texture. All right, here is the size here, 1024, and I'm going to leave that as it is. You can also change these numbers if you want to as well. So you can choose the minimum, width, and height, maximum, and quantize. So let's keep it at 1024, and I'm going to go ahead and say finish. Once everything is done, you can read the information here. It simply followed all the steps that we took and click closed. And right away, you're given a paintbrush, which gives you the ability to start painting. Ta-da! So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to now go to the texture menu that sits right next to view. We're going to go to where it says textures, and let's go ahead and choose the texture we created, material color. Now we really can't see anything just yet. So let's go to UV mesh, show UV mesh. And here are all the boxes that have been broken up for us. Let's take a look at what we have here. 1, 2, 3, and of course the other sides. All split open for us like a cereal box. And we can write on these. So I don't know by default which one's which, but I can go ahead and do this, watch this, and I go to view, and I can see that it's showing up here. So I can go back here again and go front. And I'm going to go ahead and just experiment. Watch this, I can draw here, and it shows up here. So I can go on the actual UV and write on it as well. So we know this is top. So now that we know all that, let's now take this guy and put the texture that we need on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the texture menu, file, and we're going to export this texture. But I need to do one more thing to make sure we see these boxes. So I'm going to go to the layer menu this time. I told you there was a lot of steps. And I'm going to go create UV mesh layer. And now we have these little outlines that appear. So what I'm going to do is save this texture by going back to the file menu. I'm going to choose save texture. And I can change the file type if I want to. I'm going to leave it as a TIFF and say OK. And I'll just put this right on my desktop. And I'm going to call it box texture. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the front of this guy here, put the word box. I'll go ahead and throw down an underscore, and that will be the texture for the box. Let me head over to my desktop so we can see what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the box material texture. And as you can see here, we have the outlines that we need. So if we were to take this into Photoshop, which is what we're going to do next, and don't forget, guys, you can take it into any image editing application you have. This texture, we could take it into GIMP. You could take it into Illustrator, Photoshop, or whatever you want. And we're going to then take a texture that I found online of a crate. And I'm going to show you how we're going to place that on these boxes and then bring that back onto our model. And it's going to be really cool. So do me a favor and just save this box and the texture. And then in the next lesson, I'll show you how we can go ahead and finish this off. So you'll have some practice under your belt. So when we do it for real, you know what you're doing. All right, so once again, save, and I'll see you in the next lesson.